I'm going to change the mood here a little bit. I guess, Brig, I'm going to ask you a question. What's the best Greg Stewart story you might want to share with us tonight?
I've got one.
Hi. Well, there's a few that we don't necessarily have to mention on video. They're good stories.
Thanks, Tony Austin.
I don't know. I guess one of the most memorable ones for me, and I don't know what you're defining best, but one of the fondest memories I have of my dad was actually judging Hoosier Beef Congress with him in Indiana. And then probably the second one is when he was there to see me win Louisville in senior college. And I never heard anybody whoop so loud in my life after that. So I guess to me those were probably the funnest or the most memorable for me. To call an all-time best story depends on what setting we're in, I guess, to say that. But for now, well, those were to me kind of my most memorable, I guess.
I have a pretty good one at Kevin's brother at the wash track in Belleville.
I thought maybe you were going to say something about Liberty.
Not to change the subject.
Love to hear this one, if it's PG.
It's not.
Which one, Liberty or is it?
Christy, any stories that we can share about? I think you chimed in there maybe, about Greg.
Oh, Greg's just, these guys have always been fun. I took pictures up at Greg's, and he was always good to me and helped me get started. And Greg did things differently, and I admired him for that. He always had a unique and positive way of doing things, and just real pioneers down here.
Very,
Even though that I'm sitting amongst Kansas folks,
Hey, I was going to say, what's it like being the only Okie up here with all these Kansas
I
guys?
feel a little threatened, really.
But that was a very politically correct answer right there about Greg Stewart. But I guess, Kevin, any stories that you care to share? I don't know if you and Greg used to run the roads together at all back in your younger days.
Yeah, I'm his brother and my brother, and there was a whole entourage from north central Kansas. It's kind of amazing how we've gotten a little older and survived, but where we are all, where we're at, it's kind of fun.
A lot of good, clean fun.
Definitely, I guess the next generation on their way. Obviously, I know your son Brady won Kansas last year, and Brig, obviously, you're making your way in the business. But I guess with that being said, Christy, as far as the sale management is concerned, when you start to make decisions on these sales and look for the trends, I guess what are the customers, besides quality, really looking for? Obviously, what are some things that maybe you've seen change, as we said, as far as evaluation of phenotype may have changed? What are some things that you're seeing as far as customer buying decisions maybe changed over the last decade? Obviously, you've handled so many sales and been so successful. It seems like things have changed. People are looking for different things. Any thoughts on that, I guess?
Sure, like when we got started, or I had an idea that we were selling Hereford bulls in the early '80s or mid '80s, and Hereford bull sales, it was getting tough to really make a good living selling 2-year-old bulls, and the Herefords were in a kind of a down period at that point. It was a transition period probably for that breed, and I had grown up in that a long time and had a lot of great Herefords, but we had an idea that the club calf deal was starting to catch on, especially up north, and wanted to maybe find some females that we could bring in and kind of start a new niche program along with the Hereford program. And we so that evolved into starting a female sale to bring that to other people, and bringing the cattle from Wyoming and up in that area in Colorado, bringing them to Oklahoma, where has always been a strong state for 4-H and FFA and junior livestock programs. So that was kind of the start of how I got started, and that was probably some of the very first female sales that were targeted just for steer or club calf production. And it has changed. I think demand was the driving force behind it originally, just to find a main cross in volume or a semi-cross in volume that people could take an AI, and it didn't matter who you were, if you had 1 or 100. If you could raise a good calf, it was an income generator. And things weren't as prosperous at that point in time in the country probably as they have been in the last 5 or 10 years. So it was a drive, that was the driving force behind the beginning of my business, and just a new thing to do, and just a way to carve out a new path and make a road something different. But so, you know, just I think demand and interest was the first thing that really got people going. I think now, we see a lot of people, it's grown and gone in many directions, and the cattle have gotten a lot better and really good. There's a lot of good people doing it and selling cattle, and so I think it's evolved in more a customer service business, and people, they want, it's a people business in a lot of ways. They want service, they want hospitality, and they want, not only do they want good cattle, they want to be a part of a program, and they want some direction, and it all goes back to, you know, just everybody enjoys the farm and rural part of it, and there's people involved in it that don't necessarily make a living with agriculture, and there's people that do. So this has been a great business and grown in lots of different ways, and it's really amazing how much it's grown over the last 15 or 20 years. You know, I couldn't have dreamed that it would ever be this big or have evolved this much or taken this many people, and it's created a great lifestyle for, I know all these guys sitting here at this table, and whether it's purebred or club calf composite, just the excitement around a quality animal and the show business, and the excitement of how that's filtered down into the commercial business is really beyond belief from where we started, I think.
Certainly, I guess you look at your sales there in Denver, it's just shocking at how strong the premiums are for a lot of these sales, and I'm certainly, as you said, probably 15 years ago, you never would have figured you'd average what you average in Denver, and certainly I think a lot of these guys would say the same thing. I guess Greg and Brig, as Christy said, a lot of the cattle that maybe started a lot of this came from the north, and you guys are sort of right there on the fine line of sending cattle to the south, sending cattle to the north. I guess as far as your program is concerned, is when you're raising those cattle, let's say may go to the spring majors, you know, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston, or the state fairs, or, you know, obviously Kansas State Fair. Is there a big split when you guys go to mating those cattle? Are you seeing, as you said, maybe a difference in what you have to do there? I know you said the extremes are there as far as the heifer mates and steer mates, probably comparable, not what it was 15 years ago, but as you start making these cattle to go south or go north, is that a big difference in your program that you guys have to really combat, I guess?
You can answer that.
Yeah, not really, I guess, so to speak. I guess birth dates really is the main factor in the difference, really.
Good ones are good
There-
ones, is what it's trying to say.
I mean, no matter where you're at in the country, I think in Texas, there's so many and the shows are so large. You've got to focus, again, and Christy has said this and Kevin has said this, high quality cattle that are fresh and have some muscle, and they obviously have got to be sound. So, I mean, it kind of covers all your bases. And so I think, yeah, down south it maybe takes a little bit more muscle to get one across, to differentiate between them, but I'm not saying without sacrificing quality. So amongst a bunch of high quality ones, what sorts them in the end, typically muscle and how they handle and their freshness along with their structure at that point, because you got a large number of them. Up here north it probably doesn't take as stout a one, I guess, in not in a bad way or meaning it in a bad way. Just I think there's just so many of that type down there that you got to separate it somewhere.
Right.
Well, I'd like to add that, you know, what she said is there maybe wasn't flow from north to south, so to speak, but at the same time, you know, our hats have to be off to that. And what she said was demand. The support for the junior programs in those southern states, we had a lot to learn from that in the northern states, and you know, that created that demand and those people with the support of that system. And there's plenty of good cattle down there too. It just sometimes seems like they're better up north because it's fresh.
I think it's a volume thing.
It's an environment deal too, volume, and
Volume,
you know,
yeah. We
you go
can-
north, it's
yeah.
the cattle, the weather conditions make them appear a little fresher. And You know, even you go north from north central Kansas and certain times of the summer and the cattle look a lot better and you wonder if you're doing things right just based off of the time of the year.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty segregated now, I think, and we see a strong slick shear market. Sure drives a little bit different animal than some parts.
Actually, if I may add to that, I think their structure is better.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times we may see it, but we may not say it with some of these cattle that have a tremendous amount of hair. But it takes a really good sounder when you slick shear.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. I guess
It takes it like an extra level of soundness, one that can move good, but still is set in his angles and everything. I mean, you know, they always say they maybe have to be just a nickel straighter hawk, but they can't look too straight. They can't look too bent legged. They got to be on that like exactly right to get a good look at them and still be able to get out and cover them. So like I think it's right. I think
straighter hawk stuff.
I'm not meaning straighter hawk as in I mean
Depends on the
less bent legged ones or
Exactly.
you know not I mean they've got
More of a show.
yeah more of a show leg but still get out and move. With hair you can cover up the angles to their leg and get a you know but yeah they got to be a little bit more bent in their knee up front because you know you can change the curvature of a front leg. But the hind leg, I guess, with hair, a little straighter hind leg, you can hide a little better. But down there, it takes a little more perfect of a hind leg in a slick shear deal is what I'm trying to say. So the little more curvy legged ones don't get looked at as well, and the little straighter legged ones you can dang sure tell because they're overboard.
definitely. I guess sort of to lighten the mood again. Maybe I know you mentioned Tony Austin. He sent a few questions in. I know you mentioned that you guys judged the Hoosier Beef Congress together. I'll just kick it off. Were the class placings close, or did you have to go find him at the snack bar?
I wish I would have been at the snack bar.
Actually, when I don't know what they asked us to pick what side we wanted to be on before we judged the show, and he actually judged most of the, I guess, purebreds and the higher percentage breeds, and then and stayed toward. I guess he did Angus, Simmentals. You did foundation semis too. Hereford stuck I guess to the straighter purebred type stuff, and then I was did like the shorthorns, the mains, the maintainers, and the more crossbred type of breeds, I guess, or that have allowed some other stuff in. And the way they ran it there is I'd place the classes, I'd place the divisions, and then when it came for champions, he'd come over and help me. Well, and not necessarily help me. I'd tell him what I was thinking. He'd tell me what he was thinking, and we actually didn't converse about it before. We just went and looked at them. We came back and we talked to each other, and we were pretty unanimous on it. Or actually, almost 100% unanimous when it came down to picking the breed champion. And it got close in one. I think one division, the key division.
We were pretty spot on.
But pretty spot on, I guess, on both sides of that, and it was pretty fun to know that.